Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cinema A to B, where I and Ben discuss movies. It's fun, and you get to watch and listen. So today we're going to be talking about the 1994 sleeper hit, The Shawshank Redemption. Definitely the sleeper hit. It took many years. But, Ben, we're going to hit back on this great old movie. What are your thoughts?
This is the one. This is, so I rearranged my top 10 recently, and if somebody hasn't done this and is listening, I I cannot stress enough how important it is for a movie lover to create and revise their 10 favorite films. The order is not as important as figuring out and settling on 10 movies. And I might get into why that I feel like that's important later, but for the sake of brevity and getting into this movie, right now, at this moment in time, my number one favorite film is The Shawshank Redemption. That's kind of been a recent shuffle. It was always top 3 or 4, but I think a lot of it is kind of my age and some stuff's kind of got moved around. So this thing is, I think it's a perfect film. And there aren't that many that I could say that about. I literally do. I think this is one of the handful of movies that is perfect in every way. From who they've cast, who directed, the source material, the cinematography, the pacing structure. It has one of my favorite endings of all time in a movie. It's probably a top 3 or 4 ending. So for me, this thing kind of has it all, except it doesn't really have, instead of a traditional romance, it has probably the best bromance of any movie ever made. So it doesn't have, a traditional romantic element to it. I will watch this anytime it randomly shows up. I own it, but anytime it randomly shows up on a cable network, I'll stop and watch. I probably won't watch the whole thing, but I'll at least sit down and watch 20, 30 minutes of it. Yeah. I'm that big of a fan of it. And then I'm a big fan of what they term redemptive cinema. And this movie is just, it's got it in the title, for crying out loud. It's kind of the poster child for redemptive cinema. I will watch movies with downer endings. I'm not opposed to the downer ending, right? I think there's a place for that. I think there's a place for movies like Seven or 12 Monkeys. Yeah. But if something that I'm going to go back and watch again and again, for the most part, a lot of them have more redemptive, uplifting endings. And I think Shawshank's got one of the best. That helicopter shot, kind of the God shot is what they call it, on the beach. Just gets me right in the feels every time. The only other movie that I think emotionally will hit me like that now is probably the end of Field of Dreams, but it's kind of a different emotion. But this story is incredible. The adaptation is really good based on the fact that it was, the Stephen King source material is a little bit different. And King has even mentioned this is his favorite adaptation of anything he's done. And you can see why. The only mind-blowing thing is like you said, sleeper hit. Yeah. Bombed in the box office. It's a movie that its success now is credited to the home video market.
Well, and the fact that it was cheap to air on TV. So, those cable channels would just throw it on at any point, because it was dirt cheap. So it got a wide audience of people who are flipping through the channels. Now, funny enough, I have probably seen this movie all the way through from start to finish twice in my life. And that may be even it may have only been really once that I've actually watched it. Because it comes on so much that I'm on TV or we're flipping through. Literally 3 months ago, we came home from something from overnight weekend, and my buddy who was house sitting and dog sitting had it on the TV, and the wife and I just sat down and we started watching it with commercials. I'm like, I own this movie. Literally, we could have just popped it in. We would not have watched it with commercials, but we were just watching it. And that happens all the time. Like you said, we didn't watch the whole thing, but we caught 20, 30, maybe an hour of it. And we came in with my favorite scene. I walked down and it was the roofing scene where they're tarring
that's
the roof.
My favorite scene too.
Yeah, that's absolutely my favorite scene. And so I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this. But then it just pulls you in. Like you said, it's not a lot happens, but there's so much relationship building. There's so much kind of story elements that it's not boring ever. Like, it's not slow. It doesn't feel slow. It doesn't feel ever like it's taking too long. It feels paced really, really well. I actually, in prep for this, I actually had to go back and watch the intro again because I couldn't remember exactly how it intros. And I remember like it's like 10 minutes before we even get the narration from Morgan Freeman, because it's like that full, maybe not even 10 minutes, but because it's that full sequence of him getting, essentially, so like the movie like begins, but we don't meet its storyteller until like 10, 15 minutes into the movie. Yeah. So, which it was a good choice, and I liked it coming from Morgan's perspective and not from Tim Robbins. Like, I felt like that was a really good decision and a really good kind of artistic choice. I haven't read the books. I don't know from whose perspective it's told from, if it is or if it's just all third person stuff. But I really liked that choice, Darabont's choice in that.
Yeah, and one of the great anecdotes, it's pretty widely known, is that the joke is now Morgan Freeman's, his nickname, they kept his nickname Red from the source material, but in the source material he was Scotch Irish. But I love that which made sense that his nickname would be Red, but they kept it and cast Morgan Freeman, which was a brilliant decision.
Oh yeah.
You remind me
see anyone else in that role.
No. And you remind me that, with the narration in this movie, I realized, like, in my top 4 or 5 movies, I think at least 3 of them are heavily narrated. This is one. Goodfellas is another.
Oh, that's right. Good. Yeah.
And it's probably not in my top 3 or 4 anymore, but Fight Club obviously has got heavy narration throughout it as well. And I knew some people that just loathed movies with narration, considered it a lazy filmmaking method. And obviously I completely disagree. I think there's a place for it, because this movie they never narrate what you're seeing on screen. They're always adding some other component. I can see where somebody would get annoyed with a movie that narrates literally what you're seeing on screen. It's like, well, what's the point of this? Mm-hmm. There's always more that Red adds to the situation that frankly only he's privy to. You feel like this third party that's in prison with them, that's kind of been privy to what's going on.
And they keep the mystery too. Like, I like the fact, because like, as you're talking about movies and their narrative, they're just talking about everything. I'm thinking of like Blade Runner, like how that narration is just terrible. Like, takes all of kind of the mystery and not intrigue, but like just ruins the film. Just ruins the film. I mean, I know there's people out there who love the narration in Blade Runner, and good.
It's a small group.
Yeah,
it's a small group, and most of them, that was the first time they saw it was with narration, and so they were open to it, but that's widely been rejected now. And back to Shawshank. So obviously this movie is shot by my favorite cinematographer of all time as well, which is Roger Deakins.
Oh, Deakins.
Who took forever before he finally won his Oscar. I think he's got 2 now. But I mean, can you imagine the fact he lends this?
What did he get his Oscar for?
He finally won in 2018 for Blade Runner 2049. And then he won again 2 years later for 1917.
Oh, yeah.
But let me run down the other movies that he shot and only got nominated for Academy Award for. His first nomination for Academy Award for Best Cinematography was The Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. Doesn't win. Shoots Fargo. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? No Country for Old Men.
Holy cow.
The same year, he's nominated twice in 2008 for the No Country for Old Men and the assassination of Jesse James by the Robert Coward Ford.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Coward Robert Ford, which I highly recommend people watch that movie. It's a sleeper. It's really good. Brad Pitt gives a killer performance in that movie. He's nominated for Skyfall, Prisoners.
That one was beautiful.
Sicario. The list goes on, right? I mean, he's been nominated a dozen times and finally won for Blade Runner 2049 in 1917. Cinematography in Shawshank's second to none.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that other component where I'm like, this is perfection. Like you get a heavy, what I like to term as a heavy camera. Like it's a lot of tracking and heavy dolly shots. Like it's not a bunch of I think there's some steady cam in there because getting into cells and stuff in the prison would be a really tight fit for kind of a big dolly rig.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've kind of a very heavy established camera shots. And then his ability to shoot that prison and just obviously it's a haunting space to shoot in, but he definitely makes that an additional character in the way that he shot it. Like Shawshank's a major character. Like just the way it looks, the way it feels. This movie, I do consider it basically perfect. It's just I can't poke holes in it.
And
anywhere.
Each of the characters are like fantastic. Like they're different enough that they're really, really interesting on their own. Even the B, C characters or whatever, they're very, interesting to watch. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is like, oh, if you take that out, it would be run smoother. No, none of that whatsoever. This is definitely a movie that is done. Like does not need to be revisited by Darabont and be like, let's re-edit it or let's add this or, no, it's good just the way it is.
Yeah, and the secondary characters are in much like it reminds me of Heat because the secondary talent in this is really on full display with guys like William Sadler and Clancy Brown as the captain. He's great. He's so good. It's almost like I don't know how much of it's lightning in a bottle, but it's almost as if Tim Robbins and especially Morgan Freeman kind of seem to have set the tone and like caliber of acting that is going to be, that we're going to establish while we're shooting Shawshank, and everybody else just kind of rises to the occasion. And then clearly Darabont has got some sort of secret sauce going here with the performances he's getting out of these guys. Cause there is not a moment where anybody feels like they're acting.
I agree. And this is his first major movie too for Darabont. I mean, he had done some like looking at it like a video, a TV movie, and a short beforehand, apparently, like as a director. Like so, this is his first outing for a full length feature film that was screened in theaters. But then
which was a huge risk for them to kind of take.
Well, and obviously it didn't pay off at first, so
No, and he's not directed a bunch of stuff.
No.
Can you imagine like? You're right out of the gate, more or less, you direct what's widely considered one of the greatest films ever.
And he's never lived up to it. I mean, I really like The Green Mile. I really like The Majestic, but they're definitely not on the same caliber of Shawshank,
No, and I think he was always more of a writer than he was an actual director. But when you're a great writer and you know how to work with actors, and then you hire Roger Deakins, good things happen.
Yep.
Sam Mendes can tell you that. You don't have to worry about the camera when you hire Roger Deakins. You can just focus on directing actors, which is not every director works that way, right? Like Michael Mann operates camera. You'll see Ridley Scott with a camera on his shoulder.
Yep.
You'll see James Cameron operate camera, and Spielberg occasionally will have the camera, but Darabont, he didn't have to direct that movie this way. He was able to have Deakins worry about what the framing was and the blocking and all that. And so I think it comes through that he's really just getting great performances out of everybody. Because, Tim, and I feel like Tim Robbins kind of gets overlooked in this movie by Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, but it's Tim Robbins' best performance.
Hands down best performance.
Hands down. It's and I think people forget, like, he's kind of an unconventional leading man, but I think people forget like how good of an actor Tim Robbins is. And he was kind of, late 80s, early 90s were kind of his time to shine. And then his career didn't fall off a cliff. He kind of aged out of some roles, I think. But
and he did those like crazy roles pretty well too, where like he did the leading man role, but his bread and butter was 100% like some of those weirder roles and things. I mean, Bull Durham, The Hudsucker Proxy, High Fidelity. I mean, his little, not cameo,
he's
but
got
his
a great
little role in
cameo
that.
High Fidelity.
He's so fantastic in that.
He's great.
But
he's Merlin in Top Gun.
I always forget that he's in Top Gun.
Yeah, he's Mav's rear for the rest of the
That's
rest
right
of the movie.
At the end.
But yeah, he's great in Bull Durham. Bull Durham's really good.
I'm looking. There's one I liked him when he played the bad guy in.
He was
Arlington Road.
I hate that movie, by the way.
Oh.
But yeah, he's despicable.
Yeah, just absolutely.
That movie
terrible.
is despicable. That's one of those downer ending movies, Arlington Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
He was in Mystic River. So yeah, I mean he's had a diverse career, but yeah, this is his shining moment, and unfortunately, it wasn't really recognized as such in the moment. But and I'm not an actor, but I have to say, like, personally, the way I'm wired, I don't need the Oscar. Give me a movie, give me a role like The Shawshank Redemption that I'm the lead in.
Yep.
And my legacy is set. Because that movie will be around forever.
Mm-hmm. And talked about forever.
Yeah. And when you said that the popularity grew because it was so cheap to run on television, there's another movie that's beloved. And that's the exact reason why it became so popular, is because it just got ran on television for cheap. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
It didn't, nobody saw it when it came out, and it got uncovered later and ran for decades. And now it's considered the greatest Christmas movie of all time. No? No?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. Never have been, but I'm also not a huge fan of A Christmas Story. It's considered
the GOAT. It's the GOAT Christmas movie, though. That's not debatable. It's a Wonderful Life.
Muppet Christmas Carol, done. I'm walking away.
You're in the minority, bro.
I know.
Maybe we can do an episode of It's a Wonderful Life versus Muppet Christmas Carol.
Well, with Shawshank, it's a fantastic movie. So, you have any final thoughts that you're thinking about with Shawshank that we haven't talked about yet?
We probably could talk longer on this movie, but the reality is it's been around for a long time, and it's firmly established, I think, in most circles as one of the GOAT, what I call a GOAT movie. Yeah, there's no excuses at this point for not having seen it. It plays all the time. I feel like it plays on like Turner stations like TNT and TBS and stuff a lot.
Exactly.
I feel like they had the rights to run it forever. It can be a tough watch in places. Like it's anytime the lead, crawls through like a mile of poop.
Oh, I would have thought the one with Brooks, or even with Johnny. Well, who's the kid?
Oh yeah, no, the Brooks scene's the most heartbreaking, along with the kid that he tutors.
Tommy. It's Tommy.
It's devastating. Yeah, this movie's got some absolute emotional gut punch moments, which is what makes the ending, the payoff so much better, right? And in that way, it emulates life.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sweet moments in life are sweeter because of all the crap we go through.
Yep.
Like I'm not justifying bad things happening, but the reality is, as human beings, like, good things are sweeter because the bad is so sour.
Yeah.
And this movie really portrays that really well. But yeah, tremendous film. I love now that it's like given its due.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is in the pantheon now of great cinema. Yeah, this is one that I feel like it doesn't have to be watched on a big screen, but I would definitely be game to go to the theater
and see it
for a re-release. Yeah. Especially now that everything's digital. That's kind of the beauty of these digital feeds they're sending the theaters now is you have a higher potential of being able to go and watch something like this. But I'm trying to give nuggets here on how to save the theater industry.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think the backlog of great films that chest needs to be opened up if they want people to go back.
And smaller
and
theaters.
Not just worry about and stop remaking stuff, please.
Oh my goodness. Or no, remake stuff, but remake stuff that was crappy and make it
But
better.
that's not how a Hollywood suit thinks though. Like they're like, oh, it failed because it was crap. The story's crap.
No, but look at Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11, the original Rat Pack one.
Yeah.
It's at best.
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
And then.
But at some point they're going to remake this movie.
Oh, which will be terrible, and I will not.
Oh
see
yeah.
It. My only final thought, is get busy living or get busy dying.
Yeah.
Well,
no, there's great life messages in Shawshank too. That's another. It's probably the parting thought for why I love this movie so much is the message, and it's not a message sugar coated. So.
No, it's very much there. This is what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. Again, Alec, can you tell everybody what they need to do?
Well, if you all want to talk to us online, we are at the Facebooks and the Instagram, but the only place you can watch us is at YouTube. But you can also listen to our podcasts and anywhere you can get podcasts. Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music. Whatever you pick, you go ahead and you can listen to us there as well. But on video, just YouTube. But feel free, leave stuff in the comments. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. We're happy to engage. This is just us talking about movies, having fun, and enjoying ourselves. So be part of the conversation if you want.
The handle's always at Cinema A to B.
I always forget
on
that.
YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. That's the easiest way to find it. And we appreciate you listening in on another episode.
Thanks, everybody.